we're going to jump into our bestiary section. And like we mentioned in the previous episodes, with the bestiary section, we're not going to go over every single Eldrin that we come across in the section. So we're going to kind of go back to the last few chapters and start with the Anansi. And the mythology of it comes from Africa by the Ashanti people of Ghana. This mostly appears as a spider, or a spider with human head, or kind of a bunch of different mixes of those. And some of its titles are the King of Stories, the Trickster, the Joke Maker, the Bringer of Knowledge and Wisdom. The trial of worth is unknown, but we do know this is a tier 1 mystical creature, so fairly low on that totem pole, and it is progeny born. We know that the evocation is weaving silk threads that cause those trapped in them to fall into a comatose, like state while viewing illusions. When we were talking about the arcanist, or the person that was bonded to the Anansi before it got killed, it makes a lot of sense why the Anansi convinced him essentially to go steal mystical creatures to feed her, because that's what this mystical creature is about.
The other one we're going to cover is the Reaper. So the Reaper and Reaper, Grim Reaper, this is another kind of tiered Eldrin. So it actually comes from the 14th century during the Black Death. And those who survived came up with this image of a skeleton, black flowing robes, and then the iconic scythe that goes with it. Skeleton is obviously related to the death portion, but the black robes were commonly worn for funerals, and scythe was used to depict the harvesting of the humans, killing them and gathering them. It is one of the more violent ones, so its trial of worth is you have to kill a blood relative. However that goes about works, but it has to be a blood relative that you're killing. Its tier is actually anywhere from 1 through 4, so all the way up to that dragon tier. And it's fable born, so it's born when the blood of 1,000 people is spilled across 1 acre. So very, very tied in with death. The evocation is very similar to nightmares with the tears that inflicts. It actually can manipulate blood. So instead of shadows stepping from shadow to shadow, it can step through blood from one point to another. And it has quite a few different passive abilities. So it's actually immune to terrors, which makes sense because it is one of its powers. And it has something called the King's Revenge, which anybody who deals the final blow, who actually kills a Reaper or a Grim Reaper, they die immediately. So it's 1 for 1. So if you want to take it out, you have to be willing to risk your own life. It also has a very strong aura known as an anemia aura. So this prevents healing. So old wounds will actually start to open up, causing enemies to bleed out. The special power of Arcanist to heal quickly is greatly, greatly reduced. And any blood that starts to pour out of these wounds, again, goes back into the Reaper's power of manipulation. And we do actually have a true form of this. The scythe becomes very, very intricate, and the chains transform into ghostly lanterns that cloak and emanate abyssal magic.
So that everybody knows, we have the Orthos and the Barghest as well. Again, those will be coming up in a later episode. We'll keep track of all the other ones that we're going to be going over, but again, too many to go over one time. And we do thank you all for listening. Just want to remind everybody that we post our new episodes every Wednesday morning around 11 Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. And for those that are out in Pacific, 8 o'clock Pacific Standard. We're on all podcasting platforms. And if you haven't already switched over to YouTube Music, then you definitely need to get that done, because Google Podcasts is going to no longer be a thing. We are on YouTube as well for video, and we want to thank our editor Dan Mackison for including pictures and links to everything. If you do want to reach out to us on Gmail, we're at frithguildpod@gmail.com. We're on Facebook and other social medias at Frith Guild Podcast. Again, we want to thank the Frith Chronicles Wiki, as that is a great resource. And again, everything is linked down below for the podcast and in YouTube. And I want to remind everybody that we don't have a solid date quite yet for the Urban Fantasy, the time-marked Warlock yet for Shammy Stovall. But again, once we get updates, we will certainly include that as well. Scott, was there anything else you'd like to add tonight?
No, I think that closes it.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.